June 24th, 2021. The CW is developing a spin-off of Supernatural titled The Winchesters. October 11th, 2022. The first episode of the spin-off The Winchesters titled Pilot airs. October 11th, 2022. The Winchesters is dead. It got a whole season? Last week I talked about Supernatural's prior two attempts to branch out and spin off, those being Supernatural Bloodlines and Wayward Sisters. Neither of those ever amounted to anything, and I discussed why that is, but there was one I neglected to talk about. Because at 13 episodes and a complete season, it simply went far beyond the scope of a single video. That's right, today we're talking about the sorta but not really kinda prequel spin-off of Supernatural entitled Please excuse any issues with the format of this video. It's my first time I've done a retrospective like this, going episode by episode through, so we're going to just try and speed through it while also giving a good rundown of my thoughts for every episode. I decided to ultimately go this route because with only 13 episodes, it felt easier to give my thoughts like this, especially since this is a show I've essentially taken 3 years or so to watch, and I only just finished it a week ago. First of all, this is definitely not a prequel. They do not hide that. It's pretty evident just from the start, but I will say I think the leads do a really great job in this pilot and being charismatic, and I think the chemistry the two have is pretty great. Anytime it was just about them, I was thinking I could easily watch a few seasons of them teaming up and fighting monsters. Unfortunately, I thought the rest of the cast was so-so, standard CW fare. I really don't like that there's a whole team, especially since Supernatural works so well just being two leads. I will say, the first 15 minutes or so of this pilot were janky as hell though. There was a lot of exposition and things just sort of happened at such a rapid pace. It almost feels like the script was a solid 15 minutes longer than the actual edit we got, and a lot of the first half felt cut from the episode. The climax of the episode is pretty cool. I like the monster design we got here. A lot of the show is more stylized than Supernatural, which I think is pretty cool. The main arc setup is interesting. We knew about the Akrita from press releases, but I didn't really expect them to name drop them so early into the show. But whatever. I know how it ends. I know what happens. Let's just go ahead. I hope we can get some epic Monster of the Week stuff out of the way. Can we just stick with John and Mary and drop these other clowns, please? This was fine. The monster was cool, but the episode just didn't do much for it. It reminds me a lot of some of the more middling episodes of Supernatural. It's utterly functional. It's fine. Supernatural itself even had a step down in its second episode, so I'm hoping things improve from here on. Definitely still not liking the expanded cast, though. I really cannot get into them. It feels like lazy writing to lean on them so heavily as a crutch. This episode was solid. I actually liked the monster a lot. I think the minor developments of the plot were pretty nice. I really liked the Bori Baba, actually. I think it's a really cool monster, and I think the developments with Mary were great. Solid enough episode. Step up from episode 2, but it's, I don't know. It's still feeling like the show doesn't know how to capture the supernatural magic. John and Mary themselves are still cool, and they have great scenes together. But just imagine if Supernatural started with Castiel and Jack as full characters in the opening episodes. It's just too much. So I actually like this one. The main plot was very well done, and the show continues to have some really cool ideas like they did in the pilot. I didn't expect the show to dive so heavily in John's status as a veteran, but I'm glad they did because it made for a really entertaining plot that expanded the character very well. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm still really liking him and Mary as leads of the show. The episode does a ton of work for one of the more underwritten characters though, with Carlos. I think he was probably my least favorite character in the show up until this point, but I like that he was a soldier too, and I think it was cool to see him and John bond. The scenes with them and the support group were genuinely touching, and I think this felt like an actual episode of Supernatural. There was a fun monster of the week in the form of Mars, and that's one thing I like about the show so far, just all these cool monster choices. The designs are fun and they're unique, and they feel like ideas we never touched on much in Supernatural, and even if we did, they were underdeveloped, and again, the designs weren't nearly as good. As for the main plot, it's not going too well. The Akrita are nothing more than a name at this point, and while it's interesting that Mars was trying to recruit an army to fight them, I really feel like it's only bogging down the show right now. I would kind of prefer if the season were more episodic and focused on the individual monsters of the week. It just feels a little hokey and like the show is trying too hard to force in a plot to its individual episodes. Still, I had fun. Easily the best episode of the show so far. This one was kind of rough. And it turned out better by the end, but it did not start out well at all. Everything with Ada, who I haven't talked about yet, but she's really boring as a character. I don't understand the angle they're going with her at all. She's like a kind of witch, but not, and she just drags every scene she's in down. I don't like the actress either. But she has the son, and he's a djinn, and they do this really annoying plot where he's always going to become evil as a djinn. Like, he'll become evil one day, and it's so hokey. I didn't enjoy it. They try to make it some emotional core of the episode, but honestly just weighed everything down. I did, however, enjoy the stuff with Mary. I thought it was really nice seeing her come to terms with what happened to her as a kid, and it allows for some nice moments between her and John. The chemistry between those two, only reason I'm still watching the show. You know, because I know damn well the plot isn't keeping me watching. The Akrita nonsense is going nowhere. You know, it started out okay. The design is cool, but I just don't know what they're doing. This episode illuminated a lot about the show for me. It told me this shit is way too spineless. If this was actually supernatural, this Tracy character would have died. Seriously, way too sanitized. The beauty of early Supernatural was that it was bleak, dark, and people did not live to see tomorrow. Every one-off episode had like 6 unnecessary deaths of the people the Winchesters failed to save. That was the tragic beauty of it. I do like the episode though. It's probably my second favorite of the show right now under episode 4. And I like what it does for the characters, especially as it's starting to make them feel like real people and characters. Seeing John get to experience a hunter's funeral was cool, and a nice through line with Supernatural. Seeing similar traditions in this show exist was really neat. And a character episode focused just on the farm was really nice. It broke up the pacing of the show really well. I like seeing John clearly use hunting as a way to escape from his problematic life, and it's definitely in line with him and the parent show. The plot is really fascinating too. I think seeing a brand new monster is really awesome, but then going in this neat direction of having the monster possessed by a ghost was such a nice twist. And the ideas of hunters going down dark paths and using black magic to hunt is really awesome. What honestly holds this episode back though from being my absolute favorite of the season is I think the writing was a little too hokey and the ending felt straight out of The Flash. And I like The Flash, but you know, and again, Tracy should have died. It would have made it better. Okay, maybe I'm just brain rotted, but I think this episode was kind of awesome. I still don't give a shit about the Akrita stuff, especially as I realize we're just doing the Leviathans again. Like seriously, it's a bunch of unkillable monsters from another world and they possess humans of importance to carry out their plan. And oh yeah, they're silly little guys. Like tell me how Rockin' Roxy is any different from Dick Roman. Still, the plot did pick up this episode and we got a lot of really cool moments out of it. Finding out Roxy wasn't the queen was definitely interesting, but the plot of the episode felt like it moved and we weren't just teased endlessly in the background about the Akrita. The character stuff is really the meat of the episode though, and John is still great, but so is Mary, and I really like seeing both their dads. Seeing Tom Welling as Samuel was really, really cool. I'm not too hot on the dude's acting work outside of Smallville, but he did a decent job here. And this episode is probably the best of the show, purely because it focused on supernatural nostalgia. Seeing Gil McKinney back as Henry was so cool, and they even play Americana, which is one of the trademark songs from Supernatural soundtrack. It tugged at me in a way that I honestly didn't expect. Same with John having the music box from season 8 episode 12. It's the kind of things that really only like pander to me, who's such a super fan of the show. I'm starting to kind of get into the groove of the show a little bit. It's not just more Supernatural, which is what I kind of wanted going into it, and it's definitely not as good as Supernatural, but I think it's growing into its own thing and I kind of like what it's becoming. This is the kind of watchable, mediocre schlock that I'm genuinely depressed we don't get anymore. This episode was just great. I love seeing Richard Speight back as Loki. Even if he's not Gabriel, I still feel like he's Gabriel. The characters are all in their best forms as far as I'm concerned. I still don't like anyone here as much as I liked Sam and Dean, but they all have a purpose and I like it. I also liked Carlos' storyline here. Seeing the reasons why he chose the path that he chose, he's slowly becoming one of the better characters in the series. This episode was really fun. It's a nice filler episode. I wish shows like this would still get made, but with the death of the CW, I don't think we're ever going to get an episode quite like this again. Maybe the rest of the season sucks, but this is turning into a pretty enjoyable romp, and the connections to Supernatural make it even better. This was fine, I guess. Just very inoffensive, very neutral. It reminds me of some of the early episodes of the season where I certainly did watch it, and I didn't hate it, but I also don't really care. I like the idea of John seeing that he was going to die, but I feel like this should have been saved for a multi-episode arc and not just one episode. The concept of a device that shows you your fate is really cool, but tying it to a one-off vampire story is just, it's way too lame. The characters are still solid, but I hate Betty. I hate this character, Betty. I've not talked about it. She's some cop character. She annoyed me to no end this episode. The entire storyline with her, John, and Mary is just weird. The climax of the episode is pretty cool too. But again, it'd be cooler if he knew that he was going to die for just a few episodes. Just imagine how cool it would be seeing the events of next week's episode. Like, it would be so cool to get a preview of what comes next. Speaking of, have you heard about my Patreon, Jay the Zoomster Plus? You can get early access to videos up to a day early, and in special cases like this very video, an entire week early. You won't just be like John and only see your death either. You can also see cool things like Patreon exclusive reviews of movies and TV shows. You'll have access to every script and my entire video library ad-free. Link in the description for more information. That was pretty bad. I can't say I really liked anything about this episode, which is kind of crazy because it had some Middle Letters lore that I would usually find cool, but nah, this sucked. The Akrita plot is officially just bad. I didn't like it at all prior to this episode, but it's just officially shown its colors as such a boring and nonsensical storyline. Everything with Lotta, Carlos, and Roxy had me wanting to sleep. Pairing these characters together makes sense on paper, and I thought they were going in a more interesting direction with them, but seriously, oh wow. And the cliffhanger, who cares about the law in Supernatural? What are they gonna do, arrest John? Move on. I realized there was something deeply wrong with this show once I was more interested in whatever the hell Dean Winchester is doing than anything else going on. Like, the second the Akrita guy handed John a picture of Dean and they called him not of this world or whatever, that's cool shit, right? And then I realized, is it actually cool, or is it just cool because I like Dean Winchester? It's genuinely amazing to me just how quickly this show lost the plot after 2 great back-to-back episodes. It's like everything they were doing with the supernatural connections have just faded away, and we're back to discount Leviathans. The Leviathans weren't even good the first time. They're not even good. They're definitely not good the second time either. Everything with Lotta and Carlos was genuinely terrible. I'm not joking. Lotta's got this dark secret, and it was so stupid and poorly written that I could not take it seriously. The delivery was so atrocious too. What were they thinking? Essentially, she had this nanny when she was a kid, and she stole dessert to share with the nanny, and her dad found out. So the dad was yelling at the nanny, but then Lotta hit her dad with a lamp or something. Of course, we don't see any of this. She just tells the story. But then it like gets even stupider. Like, she feels guilty, and then they lock the nanny in a closet, and she like dies of like freezing to death. What? The entire episode is just useless. It's the resolution of a cliffhanger plot that was stupid to begin with John being arrested for murder, and the Akrita investigations just go in circles, and Betty still sucks, and John just sort of gets out of the problem with little resistance. Every ounce of goodwill this show had going for it has just been so squandered by these past 2 episodes. But now it's just bad, dude. I can't do it. So I've realized that I can in fact do it, and I only have 2 episodes left. So let's talk about this one, The Tears of a Clown. It was one of the best episodes of the show. I'm actually kind of befuddled. This felt like an actual episode of Supernatural, which I know the show isn't, so I shouldn't just keep saying the episodes feel like an episode of Supernatural. But the best episodes of it are the ones that feel like an episode of Supernatural. The main plot with Limbo the Clown was surprisingly cool, and I think that actually did some nice character stuff with it. Limbo's actor is also really fucking good for no reason. Dude had me shitting my pants multiple times. And the climax was really fun too. I really like seeing all the clowns, and the emotional moment with Carlos was actually well done and earned. Sometimes Carlos was actually a decent character. And then of course you gotta talk about the subplot with Rowena. It was great. I've really enjoyed every time the show has brought back supernatural characters, which is a surprise because I thought it'd be the worst part of the show, but I also thought it would happen way more often. They're treating every character they return with some form of reverence, and it's kind of nice. Every time it's happened, it's ranked amongst the highest of episodes in the show, and I wonder if that's because it's actually good or if I just like Supernatural, but I think it can be both. And it's honestly so funny that Rowena still wants to make her Mega Coven again, just like in Supernatural Season 11. I honestly can't believe the finale is next, mainly because this was a filler episode. But 2, we are nowhere near ready to resolve this plotline. I just know that I'm prepared for a total anticlimax. Also very funny they dropped the John criminal plot. It's like they knew it sucked. Yep. That's an anticlimax. I don't know how to feel about this episode. It's a horrific finale for the season itself. The Akrita just get killed because Mary drives a car into them and she just dies and everyone runs off. And it was kind of funny, I guess, but not the way the show wanted it to be. And I think moving on past that, just Dean shows up and he hijacks the entire episode with Jack and Bobby return too, and the entire episode turns into less of a suitable finale for the show and more of an epilogue scene for Supernatural. And Supernatural ended in a cool enough status quo that I almost want to see more of it, but I don't really want more of it. This just kind of gave me a glimpse into what Jack as God is like and seeing what Heaven's up to and all that. I also realized that this episode basically just proves what I imagined the show would turn into later had it continued. It would have likely just evolved into a way to do Supernatural Season 16. They introduce the world between worlds and heaven multiverse traveling and everything and getting Jack back, and honestly all you'd have to do is wait until Walker ended and Jared would sign up immediately and bada bing bada boom, we got the boys back together for some stupid shit. Whatever finale. It ended the show the way I expected it to end it, and I am equal parts disappointed and equal parts apathetic. Ultimately, this was not a good show. It was a waste of time. I did not enjoy the bulk of it, and any episodes that I did really enjoy had some major connecting tie to Supernatural that clouded my critical thinking skills with nostalgia. There are some positives, but I really think they don't outweigh the negatives that hold the show back. For one, for as much as the show has the Men of Letters in its DNA, it never went far enough to satisfy me. Now, would it satisfy me at all unless it was a Men of Letters show? No. The main plot, just the Leviathans again, but really bad. I don't know why you'd ever try and redo the Leviathans of all plots. Maybe showrunner Robbie Thompson thought they sucked in the original show and wanted to do the concept more justice, but he actually made it worse here. This is worse than season 7 of Supernatural. None of the characters ever amounted to anything real by the end of the season. Carlos, for as interesting as he started to become, he just became one-dimensional, and Lada she's easily the worst written character in the show. No disrespect to the actress at all, but all she did was take up screen time. Same for Ada. Samuel was interesting at first, but never went anywhere. The show introduces a lot of cool concepts and ideas, but it never does anything interesting with them most of the time, and half the episodes had me intrigued, but only let me down because the quality of writing is nowhere near where it needed to be a Supernatural spinoff. And I think that John and Mary could have been a new Sam and Dean. There was a lot of potential, and the two characters have a lot of chemistry, and I really did like their relationship that grew in the season. It's just soured by everything around it, man. The show has to commit so much time to the supporting cast that it's never truly able to develop its leads. Supernatural never had a successful spinoff. Even one ordered straight to series and headlined by Jensen Ackles as an executive producer couldn't survive. It's time for Supernatural to stay dead. Unless, you know what I'm saying? No, it really is. Please do not do any more Supernatural. Please.